broken Kanu's way, and Dahui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?
Hello Arsenal fans, and welcome back to a new episode of Can You Believe It, an Arsenal podcast. And it's a double header this week. I am talking about two games rather than just the one, because it is Christmas season, it's the holidays, and all the football is on, all the festive fixtures, and it's been not very festive for Arsenal recently, and we'll get into why in a bit when I talk about the Everton game, but I'm going to start with talking about the Southampton game first and what we learned from that game. So the Southampton game was one where we picked up a point, so it stopped our losing streak. We didn't become the first side in Arsenal history to lose 5 league games in a row at home, which was impressive and good that we didn't do that. The Southampton game, the first half, we were pretty bad. We got controlled by Southampton quite easily. I mean, I've got the stats here. In the first half, we only had 42% possession, with Southampton having 58. And they had 6 shots to our 5. We both only had 2 on target, though. So we still had sort of ball control, which when I get into the second half completely evaded us, but we had sort of the ball control. We lined up for this game with a back 3. But I think the key difference was that Aubameyang was a bit more central in terms of being on the left. So we've returned back to the back 3 now. I think Mikel Arteta has seen that going to a back 4 has just opened us up defensively again. So he's gone back to a back 3 and gone back to something he knows, which is completely fine, and it's something that you do when your team is going through a lot. But we didn't start this game well. It only took 18 minutes for Southampton to score, Theo Walcott going through. And I must say, I said this on Twitter at the time, the Theo Walcott goal is just a classic Walcott goal. It's exactly what he would have done for Arsenal. And I can't believe that our defenders have never seen Walcott play. I thought Tierney on the night was pretty poor against Walcott. I think he struggled against that kind of pace. Even though Walcott is not blisteringly fast like he was back in the day, he's still a very quick and tough person to handle, and he done very well in this game. He basically sat himself on Tierney and then went through on goal. Gabriel pushed up, and then Walcott was allowed to go through, and he took the keeper very well. I know people were saying maybe Leno could have been big, but I think it's just Walcott and his speciality with finishing, which is quite good. And then for the rest of the half, we had, in terms of, I think we had one chance where Ceballos went through on goal, turns around, looked, he could either have a shot or he could pass it to Eddie Nketiah or Ainsley Maitland-Niles, but he decides to dive, which was really frustrating. And I'm one of Ceballos' biggest defenders, but that in that moment was cowardice. It was very, very bad from him, and he just didn't really look like he wanted to help the team at that moment of time. He just wanted, it was a selfish thing to do. He could have squared it to Eddie Nketiah or Ainsley Maitland-Niles for them to get a goal. It would have been a well-worked goal because he got into the position very well, but it wasn't to be. So we're going to half-time 1-0 down, and you're as an Arsenal fan this season, you're basically expecting the worst. You're basically expecting us not to come back. I mean, we've scored, at that moment, 10 goals all season, which is pretty pathetic when you think about it. So you're not really expecting a goal. We don't score. And then we come out in the second half. We have a a couple of chances, and then we get a goal, and it's Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. So the goal is all on Bukayo Saka. He does incredible work down the left. He's just he's had 3 players trying to take him out, and he just keeps driving, plays a ball to Eddie Nketiah. Eddie Nketiah's touch was lovely, and Aubameyang was in a central position in a high scoring chance and finished easily. When you get Aubameyang in those areas, he's going to finish. And I think the problem with us this season is that we just haven't got him into those areas enough, and we just haven't been creating chances. And again, it's partly down to the personnel, but it's also partly down to the setup Mikel Arteta has got us in, and that is a worry because obviously when you can't create chances, you're pretty mid-table, and when you can't score goals, you're pretty mid-table anyway, if not lower mid-table. So it was nice to see Aubameyang get a goal, and I think at this point I was like, okay, we've just equalised. Let's press again. Let's go for the second, and let's really show that we can actually come back in this game and get a turnaround that could turn around our season. And then Gabriel gets 2 yellow cards very quickly and gets himself sent off. So he gets the first one for time wasting, and then the second one going in the back of Theo Walcott. These were 4 minutes apart. And listen, Gabriel's been great for us this season. He's been one of the shining lights in the ever-present mediocrity at the club. But he was a bit off the pace on the night. Walcott gave him a handful. So does Shea Adams. I think Shea Adams is quite an underrated player in the Premier League. I think he's very good in allowing other people to thrive, and I think that's very good as a striker to have, especially in the Premier League. It's not always about goals, and especially with him, he has started at goals, but I think his selflessness is very evident for the side. So Gabriel gets sent off in the 62nd minute, and then for the rest of the game, we are pretty much camped in our own half, allowing Southampton to have control. The ball possession statistics for the second half were 27% Arsenal, 73% Southampton. It was basically all Southampton. We just couldn't get out. We don't have technically secure players anyway, so we can't really keep the ball as well as you'd like. But I think there was just no plan to keep the ball. There was no plan to counter. And I think one of the underrated values of an Arsene Wenger team was that when we used to go down to 10 men, we still were able to create chances, which I think shows a very good attacking side. That even though you're a man down, you can still create chances. We may have sometimes got caught in the break and caught defensively, but we always used to be able to create chances and still have our attacking game plan. But in this, we just had we basically conceded that a draw was the best we were going to get, and that's what we did. Southampton created a decent chance for Nathan Redmond. He hit the bar, but apart from that, I can't think off the top of my head any chances that Southampton really created that threatened us massively. So we end up with a draw, and I saw a lot of people praising the draw, saying we had a lot of fighting spirit. But for me, it was a poor performance. All in all, I know Gabriel got sent off, so there is some some outside factors to this, and that's completely understandable. When a player gets sent off, it is pretty difficult to maintain your pressure on the team. But even then, I don't think we gave them enough to win the game, and I think we were quite poor. I mean, XG backs it up. The full-time whistle was Arsenal 0.65 XG to Southampton's 1.12. So in theory, Southampton should have won the game, and we didn't really create enough to get a goal. The Aubameyang goal was very good, so there's that. it does count as a big chance, and we took it. So it was good. Obviously, we could have actually won the game and stolen the 3 points with a Rob Holding header, which was incredible. It was a fantastic header, but it came off the bar. And sometimes luck just isn't going for you, and I think Arsenal haven't had the luck, but it doesn't mean that we didn't perform poorly on the day, and we did. So I think there's a lot of questions that are going to be asked about Arsenal, and I think after that game, that Southampton game, it was tough. It was very, very tough to be encouraged. I think there was very small optimism because Aubameyang scored and we had created a decently worked goal, but even then the Saka goal was created... Sorry, the Aubameyang goal was created by Saka absolutely tearing through 4 to 5 defenders and then getting it to Eddie Nketiah, who played a good pass. So it wasn't the best performance, but at least we got a point. At least we stopped the bleeding somewhat. It was a very paper over the cracks performance. And then we got to Saturday. So it's our first Saturday game for, feels like 5 years, but we played on Saturday evening against Everton away. And I don't think a lot of fans were optimistic. I think when Everton scored, I think people were expecting the worst. So it was a ball in from the right-hand side, Everton's right-hand side, and Calvert-Lewin basically challenged Rob Holding. It came off Rob Holding and went in. So it was 1-0 down. It was poor. It wasn't the best. And we had gone behind within 25 minutes. And it was just a story, because I think when Arsenal go behind now, I think a lot of people just assume we're not going to win the game. And I think before, even when Arsenal used to go 2-0 down, I think a lot of fans expected us that we could fight back and get a draw. I remembered the Bournemouth game a few years ago, right at the end of Wenger's reign. We were 3-0 down and came back to draw 3-3. If Giroud doesn't celebrate like a moron, we could have gone for the 4th goal. And there was loads of instances where that happened. There was the famous Bolton game in 2008 where we went 2-0 down, lost the man, and then somehow came back to win 3-2. So there are games where you can see us come back and really put our stamp on the game. But I just don't think Arsenal do that anymore. We're just not a good enough side to come back from a goal down. Encouragingly, though, we did show a bit of fight. We did show a willingness to go forward. And something that I just wish that Arsenal would show more often. And then we got a penalty. It was a pretty clumsy tackle from Tom Davis on Ainsley Maitland-Niles. He done well. He had basically drove and got himself into the box and then got tackled, and it was a penalty. And Nicolas Pepe stepped up and buried it. So his 2nd Premier League goal this season from the penalty spot, and we were 1-1. And I think at 1-1, the way we came back into the game was encouraging. We were at least with them. We at least had more possession. We weren't just sitting back like in the Southampton game. We were doing okay. And then we can see the goal right at half time. Near post header from a corner from Yerry Mina. I mean, he's incredible in the air. I don't know why we have, I think it was Eddie Nketiah and Nicolas Pepe marking Yerry Mina, especially when he's one of the best headers of the ball in the Premier League. So that was a bit baffling. And then we go into half time 2-1 down. And I think, again, you go into half time and I don't think any Arsenal fan expected us to come back, really, realistically. I just think people thought it was done. And to the credit of the team, they came out in the second half and performed better. We had 69% possession. We had 10 shots. but none of those shots were on target. There were 6 off target and 4 blocked shots, which was pretty poor when you think about it. Everton were there for the taking. Everton were poor. They hadn't performed incredible, but they had performed just enough to win the game. And I think you can do that pretty easily against this Arsenal side. You can perform to the very minimum and sneak out a win against Arsenal. And that's what happened. And we made 3 changes. We brought on Willock for El Neni, the returning Gabriel Martinelli for Pepe, and Lacazette for Nketiah. Now, I must say it was lovely seeing Martinelli back. I think he showed much more than a lot of players on the pitch. He was pretty effective in terms of actually being able to press the ball. I think Martinelli is going to be an absolute star in the future, and it's encouraging to see him back and actually at a pretty okay level. Obviously, he'll probably play in the Man City game to get him some game time in his legs in the cup. But it was nice to see him back. But we just didn't have enough to win the game. Even though we had a lot of shots, we didn't create anything incredible. XG says we were a bit unlucky. Everton only managed 0.74 XG, whereas Arsenal created 1.53 XG. So, but remember, we did have a penalty, so that's most of the XG. And I think what was evident about this game is there's no accountability for performances on the pitch. Willian survived 90 minutes, and I have no idea how. He was dreadful on the day, and I tweeted that I think he's the worst Arsenal signing of all time. And I think it's just such a bad signing. Apart from the Fulham game on the opening day, he has been absolutely dreadful. This was supposed to be a signing who came in and hit the ground running instantly. Was a short-term signing because he could improve us now. Give us something to take us from 8th to maybe 6th, 5th, maybe 4th. But he just hasn't done that, and he's been awful all season. He just doesn't look energetic. And I mean, I think body language is a very overrated term. I don't think sprinting around necessarily makes an incredible player. I mean, Mesut Ozil barely sprints a game. He has a very languid body language, and he was a terrific player for us before he declined in about 2018. But Willian just looks really off the pace, just doesn't look bothered. I know these are things that we can't measure, but as a fan, you look at him and you think he just doesn't care, really. He doesn't really want to fix anything for the team. He doesn't want to help the side. And he was very lucky to spend 90 minutes on the pitch. I think taking Pepe and Nketiah off before Willian was absolute madness. And it's just a horrible signing. And I think if we could get rid of him now, I would. It's that poor of a signing. It's just a complete waste of time. Pepe should start pretty much every Premier League game from now on the right, and then Saka on the left. I don't think Willian should be starting at all. So that was that, and Everton had beaten us. We had lost again. We are 15th on 14 points from 14 games with a -6 goal difference. We have suffered 8 defeats this season, which is pretty pathetic when you think about it. And we are only, when all results were done, we are only 4 points away from the relegation zone. Ladies and gentlemen, Arsenal Football Club are in a relegation battle this season. And as absurd as that sounds, it is complete fact. Arsenal have not won since the beginning of November, And remember, we had only won that because Paul Pogba gave away a stupid penalty and we ended up scoring it. We were good on the day at Manchester United, but since then, we have been awful. I think our form in the last 5 games is second worst behind Sheffield United, and the last 10 games is also second worst in the league. We are just awful all over the pitch. And I said this a couple of times on Twitter, that if we wasn't Arsenal Football Club and say we were Newcastle, you would say that team would get relegated. Now, that's no disrespect to Newcastle because, I mean, Newcastle have probably been better. Newcastle have been better than us. They're 4 points ahead of us this season. But if Newcastle were playing the football we were and getting the results we were, you would say they are going down. And as hard as that is to believe, we are in real danger of relegation here. People can joke about it, and I think it has got a bit of a funny side to it in terms of, oh yeah, it would be funny if Arsenal are in the Championship. But let's be real here. Arsenal are only 4 points ahead of the relegation zone after 14 games. If we don't start picking up results soon, we are definitely in a relegation battle. And what's different between us and, say, Burnley or Brighton is that we don't have experience in this aspect. Relegation battles are usually very, very scrappy and very tough. And we really need to produce results soon. Otherwise, we are going to be in a really, really tough position. Now, you're probably screaming at me, asking for a discussion about Mikel Arteta. And I think he's done, really. And it's tough for me to say that he's done, but I just think he is. In terms of, you look at all the underlying metrics for an Arteta side, they are not good. They are very worrying. I think we're dead last for chances created. We're near the bottom for goals scored this season. I think West Brom, Burnley and Sheffield United are the only teams that have scored less than us, which is awful. We've handled situations behind the scenes really badly in terms of the Ozil situation. And now, I'm not saying that's the wrong decision because I was completely behind it. But when you don't get results, then there's absolutely no reason to do that because you're handicapping the side, especially one that doesn't create anything. The Sokratis situation, the Saliba situation, and obviously the Guendouzi situation as well last season. These are all situations that have happened under Mikel Arteta, and as much as I and other people have tried to defend them, these are situations that could affect squad morale. And Arteta has now gone through an absolute rough patch of results, and unless he starts winning games, he's going to lose his job. And I don't care what the Arsenal hierarchy feed into David Ornstein or Charles Watts that they are backing Arteta, which is obviously nice to hear because you don't want them to be reactionary. But I think they have to look at this season and look at the results and think maybe this isn't going well. Maybe this is something that a rookie coach can't handle, and maybe we need to think about the survival of this club in the Premier League. And again, that is mental to say, but it is a true possibility. Now, that's not to say I completely trust the club to make an executive decision, a smart decision, because I don't trust Edu. I don't trust anyone on the hierarchy. because they have not proven to be intelligent people. Edu came out last week and was backing the Willian signing, saying that he needs time. And I don't know how you can say he needs time when he's been in the Premier League for 7 years and he's 32 years old. To me, that is a signing that needs to hit the ground running from day one. And he hasn't done that. I think Edu is maybe not experienced enough as a technical director or a director of football, whatever you want to call it, to be running this club and looking for transfer decisions or even potential managerial solutions. I mean, Arsenal have been linked with Isco, Christian Eriksen, some murmurs about Oscar from China. All those signings are pretty bad. All of them are short-term signings, short-term gambles. And yes, I know Arsenal have got to protect the short-term. The short-term is getting survival into the Premier League. But the reason why we're in this position is mainly because of horrible recruitment over the years. Gambling on Socrates, Lichtsteiner, David Luiz, Willian, Cedric, Aubameyang's new contract, Mkhitaryan, Ozil's new contract. All these decisions banking on us to get back in the Champions League. But every season since we've made these decisions, we've gone further and further down. The decline has been slow in terms of we went into the Europa League and now is rapid. We are now a lower mid-table club, and that is because of the decisions that people have made in the past. So Raul, Gazidis, Wenger, Sven, Edu and Arteta, Emery as well. All of these decisions have contributed to where we are now. And I do have some sympathy for Mikel Arteta. He inherited a very poor squad. I get that. But he has not helped himself by the results he has gotten. Arsenal are not a top 4 club. They don't have a top 4 squad. They don't have a top 6 squad. But I definitely know Arsenal do not have a 15th place squad. I was thinking maybe 10th. I think 10th best squad is probably right. Maybe even 8th. 8th best squad. I think that's debatable. And Arteta is making us perform so badly worse than those predictions. And it might cost him his job in the long run. And that's a shame because, again, I go back to this probably way too much, but you look at where we were a few months ago and winning an FA Cup, winning a Community Shield. Yeah, these are knockout competitions, but the feel-good factor was so good. There's nothing better than Arsenal fans uniting and being happy about their club, and that's just evaporated so quickly, even quicker than the Emery stuff. Emery was a slow burn compared to this. I don't think Arteta's got long. I think Arteta will survive until the new year. He needs to start picking up results. We've got Chelsea on Boxing Day, and then after that, we've got Brighton away, West Brom away, Newcastle in the FA Cup, Crystal Palace at home, Newcastle at home. If Arteta doesn't win any of those games, he is getting the sack. 100%. And he would deserve to get the sack. I can make an argument that he deserves to get the sack now. And it really, really makes me sad. I hope he turns it around. I hope Arsenal win those games comfortably. But I think the evidence shows that is not going to happen. So what do Arsenal do from here? Now, as much as I've just said that Arsenal probably should sack Mikel Arteta, it doesn't mean that I have any hope that Arsenal will be able to hire a competent manager or also be able to get recruitment right. If I was Arsenal, I'd sack Edu now and then hire a proper director of football who actually knows what he's doing. someone that can set a vision for this club and work towards it with recruitment and possibly with a coach. That director of football appointment is so important. Otherwise, you are just hoping Edu gets lucky, basically. Because I don't trust Edu. Who's Edu going to get us to manage the club? Who's Edu going to get us in January? Now, make no mistake, January is really, really important. And Arsenal will panic. Arsenal will be busy in January. Even though history doesn't suggest Arsenal are usually busy in January, this will make it happen. There is no way Arsenal go into January with us in 15th in the league and think, we don't need anyone. Arsenal will panic. It will probably be short-term decisions, again, which will frustrate us. But, I mean, that's what Arsenal have been doing the last few years, and it has biased us again and again and again. It is just a very hard time at the moment, and I just don't know what to do, and I don't know what the club do at this point. I know they want to back Arteta. I know they want stability. But if it's not working, change. That's just football. You can't just allow Arteta to slide us down into the Championship, because it could happen. Genuinely, it could. I think the goals for the rest of the season now are just survive, just stay in the league, and we go from there. I think next season we'll have zero expectations on it now, when you think about it. Because now, next season will be seen as, well, let's just get back in the top 10 because of where we finished this season. And that's depressing. I think a lot of fans tempered their expectations last year and this year. They were saying, oh, if we get back in the top 6, I think that would be good. Right, anyway, I know this is a very overdue podcast because I didn't do it after the Southampton game, so apologies for that. Hopefully I've covered both games in a conclusive way and explained the situation at Arsenal and what I think is going to happen and what I think should happen, and my thoughts in general. It's a depressing and sad time at the moment, since London has just gone into tier 4 lockdown, so it is very tough during this festive period, and Arsenal not really helping that. But like I said, I try and always finish on an upbeat note, and I mean, that's the only thing I can do really, and just say football changes quickly, and hopefully it does for us. It doesn't seem likely, but hopefully it does. So I will end it there for today's episode of Can You Believe It? Thank you for joining me, and come on, you Gunners.
Well, it's broken Kanu's way, and Hui's right out of the centre. It's Kanu, what's he going to do? Oh! Can you believe it?